got all the bad guys moving out of town, or? I see that yesterday, it's jail number 49.
Yeah. But I think that's not the sheriff.
No, we get 10 free ones, and then a few of us wanted more than one, so we'll just pay for those when they come.
And here's our new Watertown Public Opinion Reporter, right?
Yeah, hi,
Good to meet you. You, I understand you drew the short straw.
That's true.
Well, welcome.
Yeah.
You just graduated from college, I understand? Where at? Which college?
South Dakota State.
Oh, you're all right then. You're okay.
So my classmate is Lily Garbo. How are you related to her? Okay.
How are you related to who?
To Lynn Garbo. She's in my class.
Oh, okay. And that's your,
Aunt.
oh.
Where's Lynn?
She's a Brookings now.
Okay, that's not very far.
Where's your son have to go for first chance?
So I don't know if JT told you, but there's recently fallen so it rains.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right.
Actually, we have a deal with JT that anybody that, if our homes rain, we have to bring donuts the following week, so. Yeah.
Or if you're a newbie, or
Recent college graduate, that's right.
we got all
My phone rings, I'll go out and buy them right now.
most of them around, go around.
Yeah.
Nice and crunchy.
Morning, Doug.
Where?
Morning,
I don't have my
Just
phone
about.
with me.
Just about 8:59.
Where's Don this morning? Don?
is basically possibly on his way to Nashville.
Oh.
Yep.
And David J. Law is the man of the hour, huh?
He is, yeah, he got Watertown Hall of Fame.
Yep. One of the four.
Jim was I'll tell you after the game. But,
There we go. 9 o'clock.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is 9 a.m. Tuesday, June 18th, and it is the hour that we have the Cottington County Board of Commissioners weekly meeting, and we'll open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have a new young lady here representing the Watertown Public Opinion and taking notes. So would you lead us in the pledge this morning? You might as well get you started out right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I knew as a jack you could do it fine. We'll be all right. A couple of housekeeping chores. If you have a cell phone, which I imagine you probably do, please silence it or turn it off. And if you do get a call that you need to take, please go out into the rotunda area so you don't disrupt the meeting. This meeting is being streamed live, so if you do approach the board or have questions, more than likely you will be on the live stream. Just a heads up so that you know that that's happening. That being said, is there anyone in the audience now that would like to approach the board with some issue that is not on the agenda? We want to make certain that we allow time for that person to express their concerns or whatever they have during the open part. Is there anyone? Seeing none? Is there any items on the agenda that appear to be a conflict of interest for any of the commissioners? Seeing none, then I will
Make
take
a motion
approve the
to
agenda.
approve the agenda.
A motion by Hatton,
Second that motion.
second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? Any questions? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Whoa. Somebody dropped the watch out there or what?
I think they're getting rough at the checkpoint.
I think so too. Again,
Motion carries. Let's go on then, the minutes of the
move to approve as
June
emailed.
11th meeting, a motion by Hatton, second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We'll go right on with the monthly reports, and the first is Highway Department. Rick is here. Morning, Rick.
Morning, Rick.
Good morning, Rick.
Turn your mic on there, Rick. I'm sorry.
First thing I'm going to give you is a handout. This is a quote that I received from Dunix. We're up on County Road 27-2, right by the Wallace elevator. I gave this to them
Thank you.
before we did any milling or overlaying on our project. This was to make it so they could have a truck route off State 20 to the Wallace elevator. It's the first half mile on the south side of State 20 to the elevator. And it was to take 2 inches out, put 4 inches on, so they'd have a truck route in and out. Rob at the elevator declined it, so we went ahead with our project. And this, where this was proposed, it will be chip sealed here when we start chip sealing next month. But
Okay, now back up. You said Rob.
Rob at the Wallace
Yeah,
elevator.
he declined it?
Yeah, he declined that, so they didn't want to do it, so,
They didn't want to do it.
yeah.
Okay,
That was probably by board decision.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, but, so, because I think we talked about it before, him and I had Dunix give me a quote, being they were coming to mill and overlay for us, so.
so, but you're going to chip seal it.
Yeah, it's going to get chip sealed
Yeah.
when we start chipping.
So this is something the elevator would have paid for?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So this is not going anywhere?
No, it's not
Okay.
going anywhere, but I thought I'd give it to you to,
Okay.
so if it
And they
comes up
wanted to
around.
do,
For
they wanted
information.
to take what, 2 inches?
They were going to take 2 inches off, put 4 inches back on.
Okay, and this is what it would have cost them?
Yes,
For how long, a
half mile,
half a mile?
yeah.
Are you saying, Rick, then a mile, it's pretty safe to say that a mile would be about $375,000?
Yeah, if you wanted to make it a truck route.
Right,
Yes.
and that's just an estimation on my part.
Yep.
That's because it has to be a certain standard in order for it to be a truck route.
Yeah, because we want to, it'd be nice if they could have a truck route in, because in the spring, when the load limits go on, it goes right on at State Highway 20. And there'd be a half mile there that would be lifted, and the load limits would start at the end of that,
Oh, okay,
down to Highway 212.
right.
So,
Well, now they know what kind of money we're talking about.
yeah, yep. And they use the township road on the west side of town to get in there, or they're supposed to have 7 ton per axle to get in off Highway 20.
Actually, some of the issues have been resolved with their agronomy center being built out on Highway 20 now. That's helped a lot.
And see, when they built that, that's what we did there, was the first, not quite a half mile going north on County Road 27. We did the same thing. We took a couple inches off and put 4 inches back on, so they could have an entrance there, and the load limits start on the north side of that.
Yeah.
So we were gonna do the same thing on the south side.
Otherwise, they were loading on the highway, basically kind of off to the side.
Okay, with that said, our milling started on June 3rd. That finished on June 4th, and they started paving right away on June 4th. The main line paving, this was on County Road 14, 15, and 17.5, and 19.4. The first 3 roads are on the south side of the lake. It starts at Derby Downs, goes to County Road 17, which takes you to the prop. We did all that, and then we, instead of doing 1,500 ton of patches throughout the county. We went over and did 19.4, which takes you through the village of Compeska, because that had deep grooves in it. We straightened that out, and it's all done except for a few of the radiuses and a few driveways. There's some driveways that there's a pretty good lip there now that Dunnick's going to have to come back and smooth that out a little bit. And the intersection of 15 and 14, there's 1/4 of the radius that didn't get done. And then on the intersection of 14 and 17, that needs to get done, and that'll be completed. It's pretty nice, a lot smoother than it was. So.
Yeah, I was on the one up to 12, up to by the prop there. It's very nice.
Yep, they did a nice job.
Yep.
And then when we were doing that, we had, when they milled it, they hauled some of the millings to our shop, and then they took about 1/4 of it to Dunnick's yard to add to our mix. So we had that put up, and then as soon as they got done milling for us, they moved to the city. And we have a huge pile of millings that we're going to have to do something with, because our guys worked their little hind ends off. So they worked until about 8 o'clock at night, and we're limited on room where we could pile it. So it all got pushed up with a dozer and a loader. So now we have a huge pile that we're going to have to screen, that we make into 3/4 to 1 inch millings, mix a little gravel with it. We use it for a lot of things, shouldering, put it in on roads, different places. So
Will the city get a portion of that back as well?
they'll use some of it, yes. Yep. We're still going out and working on our blacktop roads. We still have a few breakup spots. County Road 27 north of Henry has quite a few. That's roads getting in tough shape. That's why we're going to chip seal it this year. Hopefully in the next couple of years we can start paving on that. It needs it. Our new backhoe was delivered around the 20th of May. We've already used it to replace a couple of culverts. The guys really enjoy having something new to run, because the old one was getting kind of weak and wore out. We still have one county road that is closed at the current time, and that's County Road 20-1 south of Tinkertown on 177th Street. That's underwater, so we've started doing some shoulder repair on, we have some on 8-1, 4-1, and on 20-1 where there'll be shoulder work to do. Our new sign building is getting just about complete. All the outside structure is done. The cement is done. Yesterday they came and insulated the sign shop and put some of the sheetrock up. Now we're just waiting for the overhead doors and the electrical to be done. That's one of the bright spots we've had this year, that came together pretty nicely.
Looks nice.
I drove by last night too. I thought it looks nice.
Yep. The guys are hauling P-rock for chip sealing, like I said, on 27. It's a long haul. Where I wanted to pile the P-rock is underwater this year, so we're going to have to move it and move it again. I guess that's about it. So, any questions?
No comment, though. I almost hate to mention it, but I was up north of my place this week in County Road 11, coming off the Hall Road. I think the spring was kind of tough on it, and she's getting pretty choppy, and that's a big job there.
Yeah.
But the trucks have really been tough on it this spring. I imagine just too wet,
Yeah.
you know, and there's still a tremendous amount of truck traffic on there.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount that comes out of Conneaut there. That
The
just
first semi with doubles is at 6 a.m. and the second one is at 6:01 and the third one at 6:02. Because I watch them every morning. A lot of truck traffic.
yes, there is.
Thank you,
Rick,
Rick.
have you had any complaints about the railroad crossing at Rawville? It's getting kind of rough.
A little bit. That's one that I tell people, I think I have the number written down in my office, and when I get a call, just have them call that number, because that's all we can do.
It's the railroad that is in charge of
Yeah,
that.
we're at the mercy of the railroad
Yeah,
there, so.
we had that other one that we finally got
Yeah, that
repaired
makes
when we
road.
did that
Yeah.
Waverly Road, and that went on for years, so.
Was that
Yeah.
2-3 years?
Yeah.
I noticed that it's flagged. I was up there and took a look at it.
Literally,
It's flagged,
literally
but
took an act of Congress to get the one on Waverly Road.
Yes, that,
repaired.
well, that's when we redid that
And
road,
go to-
basically.
Yeah.
And Christie was the one that finally got him to move on it. Christie owned one, so.
Yep.
When I say literally,
It'll take years.
you may have to call every
I
day.
can call, but the more calls they get from
Yeah,
different people
it's-
helps.
maybe we
takes
should put it on
everyone.
robocall.
There you go. There you go.
Have you had an opportunity to get up to South Shore yet?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I'll start out Memorial Park. Traffic has been extremely heavy through the campground. Construction continues on the Compesca Hall restroom project. We've had a few issues holding up progress there. Nothing overly serious or totally unexpected, I guess, considering the age of the building we're working with. But every little thing, when you go to work on an old house, one thing leads to another, and that's kind of what we're experiencing there. We did plant an additional 45 trees throughout the park in the last week, thanks to the grant received from the Watertown Community Foundation, the Dr. Ed Harper Fund. I am also meeting with representatives from the Cottington County Conservation District this afternoon. We're going to plan the planting of an additional 300 conservation grade trees. What can I say? This is a really exciting time to be associated with Memorial Park.
Did you say 300?
Conservation grade.
Okay, so what
So
are,
they're
what
more
would
of
that,
a twig. They're just like a,
They're like two foot tall, roughly.
and there's like
I
twigs.
mean, what kind of tree are you talking, like?
There are numerous different types.
Okay,
Tree
okay,
belt trees.
okay.
They're the
what
kind
they
of
look
one they
like.
planted at my place. My wife took down and said, I thought they were gonna plant trees.
So like I say,
Someday they'll turn.
the continued growth in the campground usage and the successful start to our Memorial Trees for Memorial Park project, it's a pretty exciting place to be around lately. To date, we have 101 new plantings that are already in the ground. We have money in the Community Foundation to fund the purchase of the 300 conservation grade trees, and we've had numerous folks expressing interest in donating additional trees in memory of loved ones, so it's coming together quite nicely.
Good.
Ag building, I have nothing specific to report from that location. It's pretty much business as usual. Courthouse, as you are all aware, the security checkpoint is up and running full-time now. We've had a few issues with people accessing the building prior to 8 a.m. before the checkpoint is up and running for the day. I've had conversations with Deputy Gubka. I have had suggested to the sheriff that he contact the board to have you folks set a policy to keep the building locked until 8 a.m., until such time as the security checkpoint is manned.
Sorry, no. We have employees who are supposed to be sitting at their desks at 8 a.m.
And, all that has to be taken into consideration. Currently, we open at approximately 7:30 or earlier based on requests from our building residents. With our new key fob system, we have the ability that every employee can have access to the entrance, which they don't now. It's been upon the department head to appoint who does and doesn't have access to the building. So if we're going to make all of this work together, we're going to have to sit down with everybody involved and come up with a plan, whenever that is.
Because they can shut down that security, like lock that up, and the only way you can get in then is a key fob, correct? Until someone would be there.
That's how I get in the morning. Yep.
Yeah, but currently not all employees have the key
Employees
fob.
have never had access to the outside doors
Right.
It's just been department heads.
So that they
And
wouldn't
that was by
necessarily,
board policy
Right.
a number of years ago.
and they wouldn't need access to the doors. All they need is access through the security point at this point, if we want to keep it secure that nobody else can get through other than them.
That's something that's going to have to be taken upon, with the sheriff and you folks. I have no intentions of changing the rules or implementing any changes without direction from you guys. So I'm sure that will be a subject that comes up in the near future. Detention center, things are pretty quiet on that front also. We're looking at doing some projects inside the confinement area at the request of the sheriff. Their population is down a little bit right now, which will give us a little breathing room to start working on some of this stuff. Currently, the floor seal is being done in the Sallyport area, and I fully expect that to be completed and ready for use by the end of the week. And that's all I have for you.
Okay, any questions for Milo? Anything? Thank you, Milo.
Thanks,
I
Milo.
come out of that unscathed,
Keep
didn't
up the
I?
good work.
Thanks, Milo.
Thank you.
Sarah's not here.
Yeah, she's here.
Oh, there you are.
I'm on the other side now.
You moved on. All right, come on. Good morning, Sarah. She does have a report. I think everybody has a copy of it for March and April.
That reminds me of church. If you sit in a different spot, nobody knows who you are. Good morning. I'll keep it short and sweet as well. March's report, there wasn't a significant cost or savings that we saw, just a little bit of cost in housing, and for homeless, we had, our apartment was full and still a need. One of the things I do want to point out that we're starting to see is the individuals that we are working with, when I first are more likely to be eligible. When I first started working this job, a lot of people that would come in maybe got their hours cut or laid off, but still were over income. Now, because of the different types of work that we've been doing, we see more individuals that we are the last option and there isn't anything. So I kind of anticipate next year we'll see more going out towards those potential rents and stuff on that. So we're starting to see that. A lot of times the biggest thing is it just actually requires case management, because the individuals we're working with have burnt so many bridges. It's working with a landlord that's going to be willing to work with them, or working with the case management component. So that's going to be a significant piece with the individuals we're working with. So then we did have a little bit more for the housing and homeless. We saw increase in March and April. We served 31 people in March and 41 in April. The cost saving versus savings in April, again, nothing really significant. The situation with the burial, the savings represent a GoFundMe that was used towards the cost of the burial. So then the county's costs ended up only being the opening and closing of the grave. Just let you guys know, the deflection program, Sunny is moving back to Aberdeen, so she will no longer be on that, but they have replaced it with Christine Tybalt. She worked at Lake Area as the counselor. She started a couple weeks ago. Very highly well trained, so she'll be our new deflection person. Just to bring up a story with that, we worked with an individual who probably was maybe one of a pretty significant case that the individual had her daughter taken. The mental illness was really driving her situation in her jail. You know, it took working through multiple systems. We first met her in our office probably a year ago. We lost her. She went through the Beacon Center. They lost her. She went through jail. She went through so many different entities, and then she was picked back up at the deflection program. But it actually took us getting together with probation, the deflection, my office, and another office, I can't remember what it was, but we all sat down to meet, because really the person was not intentionally but self-destructive. The person had had so much trauma, had severe schizophrenia, so one day might be a nurse, the next day was another career, and truly believed it, but but the perception in the public was that she was on drugs, and she was not. And so we were able to advocate for that individual to say, no, she tests clean. This is driven by that. And so we were able to work with her to also calm her down, to work to connect with the CARE program. When somebody's had so much trauma like that, this individual's probably had schizophrenia since she was a teenager, and so much trauma that their interaction with somebody can be easily set off by an individual. But if that individual can't, it mimics so close to meth and a reaction that it's really hard for others to tell. So a couple weeks ago, she stopped by. Through the deflection program, she was connected with CARE, the Beacon Center. She works with NAMI. Very, very intelligent individual, very kind, very caring. She's been reunited with her daughter. But we also know this is an individual we will see again, most likely. But what I can say is we had more safety nets there for her than we had before we started doing all these programs. And that's the significance, is having those safety nets. Being able to tell the officers, Sonny was able to say, hey, this is what's going on, having that back and forth communication with the police department, with the probation officer, parole, CPS, that's who else was at our office, was the CPS. We were all able to work together. Higher case, that's a low volume that we have, but you know what, for someone to have that possibility, that chance of the future, it's well worth it, reducing that criminal activity as well, or those encounters anyway. So I just wanted to share that, just because we have so many times, so many days, that is not the end result. But
I have a couple of questions. Were you done with your report or not yet?
Made a huge difference in her life.
yes.
That's good.
Go ahead, Brenda.
With the deflection program, so if you encounter an individual, law enforcement does, basically they give a name and number to these individuals to contact the next day. Is that correct?
So with the deflection program, go ahead, Troy.
There is a call for service that's generated, and then they get that information from our records department, and they follow up with them. Or we can call them direct if it's a situation that we need to.
The individual that you encounter? Or are you talking about?
Well, it was like Sunny. We could call her and let her know.
And you let her know about these individuals and give them a number, then they're supposed to follow up, because most of the times these individuals, if it's left on them, by the next day, they're not in a crisis anymore, and they won't probably follow up.
Or they're impossible to find.
Right.
Because a lot of them don't have a place that they call home. They don't have a telephone number. They just wander.
So
it becomes
two
tough.
questions law enforcement have to ask. They have to ask that individual, is it okay if I give the case manager person your number? And they have to answer the question, do you believe this person will benefit? We don't just look at mental illness, we look at behavior. So there's been times that we've identified earlier on for dementia. There's been some cases where it's been dementia that's been identified easier, so you can connect them to the adult services and aging. That individual gets that help. So it is that outreach, because exactly like you said, a lot of these people, it's traumatic what they're going through. I mean, if they're acting out because of whatever crisis is going on in their life, then in 24 hours, it doesn't seem as bad. That's why we have the 24-hour holds, because usually after 24 hours. So the one thing that has worked is it's titled outreach services when she contacts them, because we found that people are kind of opposed to the counselor part. They're kind of opposed to, they just maybe have had a bad experience. So she's adapted that to its outreach services. And those outreach services take a look at all those needs. Is there mental health services need? Is there substance use? Is there housing? And connecting them to that. So basically it's that baton that kind of tries to hold that individual until they get connected to those services, and then we can release. Now, in the future, if the person has a crisis, they know then to call her, which then is contacting them versus the police department. It's another resource. We did add the cell phone. We had it in the contract. We hadn't been using it, but we found that beneficial, because if it was during the hours that she was working, they can make those direct contact with the police department and potentially meet. She's able to provide rides. So transportation's always been an issue. So she's able to provide them rides to their counseling services, things of that that nature. But one of the things that she'll do is follow up with the 24-hour holds just to make sure, did you understand? A lot of those people say, I don't know what was said. Do you know when your appointment is? Okay, let's find out. So because you're just in such a traumatic point and time that maybe you don't remember, you just they're in that 24 hours, that individual, if they're on a 24-hour hold, it's because they're either harm to themselves or somebody else. Probably the last bit of information they're going to remember is they have an appointment such and such day with agency. So she just follows up to make sure that, do you know when your appointment is? And a lot of them, she says, say they don't. So then it's just calling up to HSA and finding out when that appointment, do you need a ride? Are there any barriers? And so she'll give them rides there. So it is that. But if an individual says, no, thank you, I'm not interested, that's honored and respected as well. It's their opportunity.
In that instance, if they refuse, if they are already connected with HSA, I hope then that she is also letting HSA know that this individual has been contacted and they refuse, because if it's one of their clients, maybe that's something that we need to make sure there's that conduit between these two agencies. First of all, we don't want duplication of services when we're paying this contract for LSS. And if they're already tied in with HSA, then we don't need to duplicate that service. But second of all, HSA knows that this needs to know also that this person has been contacted.
So there is no duplication of services, and I can tell you LSS does a fabulous job to make sure they're actually, because of them, they get more services because they're actually taking these people there. They're making sure that they follow through. They're very, very, very good about, I've talked to Mary Johnson and Dwayne, that is not at all what they're wanting to do. It's that baton handoff. If somebody doesn't remember they have that service, then they're not going to go there. Now, as far as the release of information, we have to be careful there too. They can't necessarily just share if someone refuses services. That's a privacy thing. So that's where we try to work that through. One of the first steps that she works to do is to try to get them to be willing to participate, sign a release. Once she has a release signed, then they can share that information. They're free to share that. But at that point, she doesn't really have that ability to share. But in going back to this situation with this gal that I shared, once she was engaged in the program, we were able to share, hey, she's in jail for this reason. She violated this. She didn't show up for this appointment. That opened up that communication. So we have to walk that, and Lee can speak to the sensitivity of the confidentiality and stuff. Once, if she calls them and they say, I'm not interested, she does not actually have the ability to release that information, just like we don't have the ability to release any of that information without there. So we walk that and we try to encourage that privacy piece, but we have to be, it's a very careful line to walk in.
I'd just become aware of that. I think at times there has been instances where they were in HSA, already tied in with HSA. That given, when she's giving rides, the liability on that is on LSS?
Correct.
Because we have a contract with her, that doesn't carry over to us.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So, given all that, with your reports, is it possible to have like a running total of these different, so you have X amount of dollars in each field that you have here. So is it possible to give us a running total where you're at in these, with these different, like housing and homelessness or transportation, just so that we know where you're at as far as funding what's left in those funds?
You mean budget?
Yep.
You want to know where my budget sits and how much money is left within my budget?
Well, in each category that you list, you allot so much in each category, is that correct?
Yeah.
So if we can get a running total of where that's at in your budget as far as what's left in those funds and what's been used.
Okay. And we normally bring that, how often do you want that?
Probably on your reports, whenever you do those. I just think it would be helpful to just kind of know where your budget's at and what's in these different line items.
I don't know, I don't know if that's absolutely necessary, probably a good idea, but now we're asking, this is almost a burden now to ask for all these additional numbers.
I don't know, is
I
it
think
Cindy, is it
can
hard to
let us
keep
know
track of
when we're
that?
in trouble there, right?
Well, we run budget expenditure reports for each department at the end of each month. So
Just share
it'll
that
show
with
you, it'll show what Sarah's got budgeted for professional services, housing for clients, travel for clients, utilities for clients. Yeah,
So you could just attach that, a page of that report to.
Is that enough information, Brenda?
Yep, I'll
Okay.
see when I get it, yeah, if that helps in what I'm looking for.
Yeah, because this doesn't reflect the contracts that we have, or this doesn't reflect like the apartment that we have on that case.
All
This
right.
just reflects these incidences.
And it's only one apartment room, is that correct, that we're renting? Okay.
All right,
all I have.
anything else for Sarah? I have one thing, did you get any response from the congressional office on that issue?
I have a possibility of an option, so I'm going to follow up with that today.
All right.
Possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
That's
Sarah.
another situation we're working on.
I do have a resolution for the future, for sure.
All right.
I'm not really stuck.
Okay, let's go on then. Thank you, Sarah. Let's go on with number 7, action on a request to reopen a vacated section line in Elmira Township. Lee,
I watched the
haven't had
video.
a chance to read the minutes. Are you up to par on this?
I think so. I watched the high drama video.
Oh, you did watch it?
Thanks to our streaming, so it was,
Amazing how boring it is, isn't it?
no, it was a lot of drama for one of our meetings, so.
So I guess I would have to say, I received the email last Friday that was forwarded on from Jay Leibel, from Tom. I was in Vermillion all day, didn't get back till after 5. And I forwarded that on to the rest of you. Did any of the rest of you look at all those statutes?
Yep.
And
Which
did
statute, can you go over the statutes again? Because I saw 3118-3. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
So is there any questions that you have of Tom Burns is here. Is there any questions that you may have in relation to any of these statutes?
Well, I guess my understanding watching all the proceedings was that 13-3-17, that's the old statute under which the county vacated the road, correct? That gave,
Don't ask the exact number, but.
okay, well, I can pull it up.
Yeah,
But,
that's fine.
It's 1030.
That was the resolution number.
yeah.
No, that's
So,
the
but-
right
but-
statute,
but-
really.
So
That's
that's,
It's hard to
what we're
know the
talking about.
process that they use. I guess we don't have a lot of information as to,
I mean, I've read it, and I never read it.
has anybody, okay, my question, number one, have we gone through the minutes? I mean, is there anything to glean from the minutes of the county commission or any township minutes as we understand, if that,
When they vacated it?
yeah, if that's, that might not be helpful.
I've seen the minutes, I did go and find the notice. That's
Okay. Okay.
Cindy and I looked that one time.
I've looked through the
There
minutes.
is really
I didn't
no
see
minutes.
anything prior to, any discussion prior to the approval of the resolution. I
Yeah, okay. There's
backwards
nothing to
and
glean from
forwards,
that. So then so yeah, we don't need to make it a who shot John drill, but.
But
if
it
there's
would be nice
anything
to know where the
Where
action
it came
came from to close or vacate it, but
Yeah.
It did say
I
that
can't
it was
find anything.
Petitioned by 42 freeholders
right.
to do it.
And the thing is they did several roads on that resolution that when they were going through the process, so it's hard to say why this came about.
Here's a copy of the resolution. Did you get that?
Let me take a look at it. I don't think I did, but I guess if I understand the kind of the nub of the issue, the conflict we might have here is that you got two statutes. One gave the county authority, that's the older statute, to vacate the road. Now you have a newer statute that kind of conflicts with that. That seems to say, okay, you just stick, counties, you stick with your jurisdiction, townships, you stick with your jurisdiction, and you don't mess with each other's systems.
Right, and the statutes really don't answer the question. And I understand Mr. Leibel's reasoning. I believe the county could open it up because the statute doesn't explicitly say you can't, and you closed it. But that's that's not the end of the issue, because you cannot make the township take it, and
Right.
18.3 or whatever it is pretty well reaffirms that, I think. So I think the issue is maintenance, and you may be looking at an exercise in futility if you, that would make it dedicated to the public. Now, the east half already is dedicated to the public because it was on the plat.
And that's 33, what did you say?
Well, that was just, when they platted lots 1 through 3 of Harold's Edition, they showed the right-of-way on the Elmira half. And on the plat, they dedicated to the public. So that is a public road. That doesn't mean the township has to take it or fix it either. The lake half, that is still technically closed to the public. There may be a prescriptive easement by this time, but so that's, if you did, well, and plus the road ends at the end of the plat there too, so you were proposing to go further, but if you open it up, it would be dedicated to public use, but that's not saying that anybody has to maintain it.
So I think, if I understand Mr. Leibel's argument, then the issue is that, so the statute 3118.3 says that you can't vacate or change any portion of a township road system. So I think his position is that if we were to set aside this vacation of the road or open it up, then we would be changing a township road system, unless we're saying
that's his position. Yeah.
So how would that not be true, I guess is the question. I want to make sure that we understand the statute. So do we make it a county road? Is that kind of what we're talking about? Or?
No, you could do that, but that's not what you're talking about doing. You're just talking about opening up.
I understand, but yeah.
So what happens is if we rededicate this road, we can do that, we have the power to do that, but that doesn't mean that the township has to accept it. So basically, I mean, we're reopening a road, but that doesn't guarantee maintenance on it. That doesn't mean, it's a simpler process that if down the road that it would ever decide to be reopened, if the county does it, because we closed it, otherwise you have 2 townships then that have to go through the process to do that at a later time. I guess I have some questions yet that I am working on, and so with that, I guess I would ask to postpone this one more week because there's some statutes in here that I have questions. I apologize, I was gone last Friday when we received this, and I haven't been able to dig into it, and so I would request that we postpone it one more week because I'd like to meet with Tom about a few more things, the residents.
I'm willing to second that. I'm just wondering if 1 week is enough time to do this, because this could be, I mean, there's other implications with this, because you're involving 2 townships, and the county's involved, and now we're involved too, because we started it.
And I guess, like for Rick, if the county takes it over, I don't know, Rick, do you want to speak to that at all? If we end up reopening it and the county takes it, is there any, at this point, is there anything that you want to add to that?
Well, I really don't want to take it over, but if I have to, the townships are going to get charged for me plowing snow to get there. They're going to get charged for me blading the road to get there because those are the 2 roughest roads in the whole county. And I'm not going to send my stuff down there because our roads get bladed every week. We're supposed to, as weather conditions provide.
I think what might be helpful, if I'm sorry to interrupt you, Rick, Mr. Chairman, I think what might be helpful is kind of just to, 1 week might be enough time. I'm just, my concern, I agree.
To have it go longer. I have a question also, like, of the township soups, like, is there any idea that you would have what it would cost for you guys if we were to reopen it, what it would be for you guys to maintain it? Do you have any idea what the cost would be to blade it and keep for snow removal, gravel?
Every time we call the blades out, it's roughly about $900 for the township.
That's the whole township.
Township.
Because you actually go right by there, or basically your grader turns around there to go back, right? I mean, it goes that far. So it's not having to go out of the way to do it.
Addressing half the township, did we blade our half every other time?
Don't you have agreements worked out with Lake? I thought you guys took care of the north part and they were taking care of the south.
That I'd have to look back or check with them, but I haven't seen the records that's for.
Because that was my understanding, I guess, but.
Tom.
All right.
Maybe that might be so, but that's what Jim's.
Commissioner Waterman.
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Burns. The township, if they wanted this open, could open this on their own, correct?
That's right, actually, two townships. Because you got Elmira and Lake.
But they could both open it on their own if that was their desire.
And they have to act to decide whether they're going to maintain it or not. So anyway, whatever you do, you've got to go to, or they have to go to the township too, so. And the townships have the power to open it, that's true.
But the township could do this on their own without the permission of the county, is that correct?
Yes.
But the
Then why
county,
is this at this board?
the county is the one who closed it back in 1975. And why was that then?
But they have with the way the law is now, they have the ability to open that without our permission.
Right, and they have
So
the
I don't
ability
think
to
if we
close
closed
it.
it back in 75, that law has been changed.
But back in
Right,
75.
and I'm not sure that you couldn't close it now, but that's not really an issue.
Yeah.
The law was changed, so.
I guess I
Charlie,
would still,
you're saying, why are we dealing with this? This is a
Right, it's a
township issue.
township issue.
It doesn't need to come before this.
And I kind of wondered why it was done that way in the first place, but I'm sure it was because it was two townships involved, and it was easier to do it through the county.
Rick has
a question. Rick?
What is the opposition of the township opening this back up? Why don't they want to open this half-mile road? That's what I want. For these poor people that live there to have service. That's the part I just don't understand. You know, the $900 to do the township, it's going to be very minimal to add that to your route. Because it takes 15 minutes to blade that stretch of road. So that's not going to add much to your budget. You know, and as far as fixing it up, I'm sure the county can help a little bit as far as getting it ready, shaped up in a little gravel. But that's the part I have not heard anybody address.
You know, if it comes down to the expectation of what the maintenance of the road is, what the expectation of snow removal. Snow removal, everybody out in the country ends up blowing roads at some point. I ended up spending use 150 gallons of diesel myself, just opening the road to get out. And that's from the old schoolhouse, south 3/4 of a mile. So the expectation of if there's a drift across the road, just call the blade out to open it.
No.
We don't do that on a regular basis. So part of it is self-help. As far as gravel is concerned, we run roughly 20 side dumps a mile. So you'd be looking at a half a mile. And then if we did our half of the township, you're talking 5 loads of gravel. And so, you know, and then we look at it on a 3-year rotation of roads. And we run into this issue with the city a lot because obviously we're right adjacent to it. And so, you know, I guess that'd be a discussion at the township meeting.
Well, thank you for your thoughts, and I'm going to share my thoughts, and these are my thoughts and my thoughts only. This situation is a neighborhood issue. I'm a little bit disappointed that the county kind of got drugged into this. Sure, they did close the road in 75 or 76, whenever it was, but the law has changed. And it seems like we have documentation that indicates that is true. That being said, first off, township supervisors, you're elected officials to serve all the residents of your township, not just the chosen few, but all the residents. landowners of your township. That doesn't mean that you should look at the other way. These people pay taxes, they're part of your township, they reside in your township, and they are your neighbors. They're your neighbors. Now, I know some of you, I've been here long enough in this community to know that there's some issues that go back a long way. You need to put these issues aside and do your job. You're an elected official, act like an official. Now, the homeowners, the landowners along there, don't be pointing fingers of something that happened to you a long time ago, and now here it is, it's kind of coming to a head. What have you done to resolve this issue yourself? I think when people come to me with a problem, I'll listen to that problem, but I also expect an answer to that problem or a solution to that problem, something that's feasible. Now, have you ever thought about having a homeowners association or something like that? They work. You know, look at the Haugen Nelson, edition out there. That's how that is operated with an association, homeowners association. Maybe you should look at something like that. Get the township supervisors to work with you on that, and maybe you can work this thing out yourself. And don't drag the county in there, because actually, by law, apparently, the townships want to be independent. And here you are. You are now independent, and we now have a donut buyer. In fact, we got a couple of donut buyers. Now, you say what you want to say, but that's the honest to goodness truth. That's the way I look at it. It's a local issue, and I think that you should be able to resolve it locally. You have man up and meet with the people that are involved in this and get it taken care of. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to get off the podium.
Okay, so I guess I'm going to say that we still postpone this because we can see where this all goes. We've started the process. We can reopen the road if it ever comes to a point. I mean, we just have more discussions, I think, that needs to happen. And since this process has been started, I don't know that there's any deadline that it needs to be completed by as far as if we rededicate it or not. I just think there's maybe more work that needs to be done, and since we started the process, I mean, we do have the ability to reopen it, but that doesn't mean the townships have to take it. I realize that. But we started the process. If we come to some sort of agreement, we can finish the process, or at that point, it's, mute. But I guess since we started it, I would say to postpone this for further discussion.
I don't know about postponing it. Let's get the thing done.
Well, it will get done, but...
Yeah.
If I may comment on this as well, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I agree. I think it's time to put this to rest. I think this is a township issue, and it needs to be resolved at that level. So that's my 2 cents, and I think we can do that today.
Commissioner Waterman.
I have expressed my feelings before on this. The downside, or what I consider might even be a little ridiculous, we've had 3 attorneys involved in this. None of them do this persona non grata, and so it might be at a reduced fee, but all of that was paid for by taxpayer money, and this is a township issue.
All right. Any other comments from the board? Someone wish to make motion?
Well, I made the motion to postpone.
Yeah, I would second that. I hear everything everybody's saying, and I understand that the law has changed. I don't know if Commissioner Han and I necessarily agree on the issue overall, but I do think we need to put a period on the end of the sentence, right. And if it takes some more research.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
So.
And a second.
And a second. Any more discussion?
I would say, I didn't put a date on that. I need to put a date for a postponement. July, I don't know, leave 15th. That gives us, what is it today? Gives us a few weeks.
And if I might.
Actually, it would be the 16th.
I think this might be, since we've been involved in it since the county did vacate the road in the 70s, it doesn't necessarily mean we'd end up actually doing anything.
No,
but
it
I
just
think
gives us more time
to lay out the options for us and for the township might be a worthwhile thing. So it might just be, in essence, more discussion so that we can get to the bottom of the issue or help the townships and the residents get to the bottom of the issue.
To try to work to a resolution.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Any more discussion? I'm going to call for the vote. Let's have a voice vote, all right? A roll call vote. Cindy, will you help me out?
Gable.
Aye.
Waterman.
No.
Johnson.
No.
Van Duzen.
No.
Hanton.
Aye.
The motion fails 3-2.
All right, so that's where we're at with that. Thank you very much. A good discussion, and like I said before, I think if the parties involved here can just sit down and have a cup of coffee, they can figure this baby out themselves. All right, let's go on.
Mr. Chairman, can I just,
Yes.
so what just happened to clarify the agenda item where it says action on a request to reopen a vacated section line, in essence, we just took no action.
We didn't do,
We haven't taken action on the request.
So,
all we did was do it on the
You took
postponement.
action not to postpone it. You're correct.
So can I make a motion that we turn this back over to the township and?
You sure can.
The proper motion would be,
How would that be
the proper
worded?
motion would be to reopen the vacated section line, and then you would vote on it. Your motion should be in the
Affirmative.
positive.
Yeah.
Affirmative, yes,
Inside.
yes.
I'll make that motion to reopen the vacated section line in Elmira.
All right, we have a motion by Hanton. Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion? Seeing none, the motion fails for a lack of second. So it will stay closed.
Yep, all right, that's what I need for my
All right.
part of this.
Are we all clear on that now? Everybody understand what we just did? All right, let's go on to number 8, discussion.
I'm going to send my bill.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your help.
Chiming in. Here's your pictures up here, if you would like your pictures of your road. Thank you for taking them in and.
Can I ask one question quick? You said don't open the road vacated, but there's no measurements on that. Does that mean a 1 mile or 2 miles or what?
It's not reopened, there's nothing, it stays the way it is.
So it's a township issue.
The public
We're kind of
notice
stuck.
outlined the length of the road, so that's what the motion.
And on your plat, it's whatever you dedicated on your plat is all that's open to the public at this time.
Okay? Thank you. All right.
Thanks.
Have a good day, Harry. All right, let's go on then to number 8, discussion action to authorize the chair to send a notice to public defender contract holders regarding timely filing of defendant's bill with the county per contract language. Apparently, they're not submitting their charges, their bills.
I hope you all kept your attitudes from the previous agenda item, because I could use them for this one. Hang on, I want to pull up the public defender contract.
Was that letter, we have a draft of such a?
I have not drafted anything yet. I wanted to bring it up to you first. We have 2 public defender contracts, a primary and a secondary. Within the contract itself, there is a section that says, the attorney shall maintain a record for each indigent client, itemizing the attorney's time charges and expenses incurred, and shall submit these statements to the county within 30 days after the entry of a dismissal, judgment of conviction, or suspension of imposition of sentence in criminal cases, or in an order constituting a final order in a case was entered. Failure to submit a timely bill shall result in the county being entitled to an offset against the contract for the amount that should have been submitted. So basically what it means is if they don't get their bill to us within 30 days after the closing of the case, we're allowed to deduct that from the contract. And the reason for this is because you've got defendants who have paid all their fines, their fees, they've done their jail time if appropriate, and then all of a sudden, here comes a bill for a court-appointed attorney, and we file a lien against them. So that's the reason for this clause, and we do have we have had some trouble with one of our one or both at various times of not getting their bills into us in time so we can file a lien, you know, in a timely manner. And it's not just our public defenders, though, either. It's our court-appointed attorneys that are done through the courts. Just this week, we received a bill from an attorney for over $5,000 for a case that was closed over 12 months ago. Now, we're going to pay that bill, and we're going to file a lien against that defendant for $5,000 12 months after his sentencing. I don't know if a letter to the attorneys is appropriate or a letter to the presiding judges.
Could I make a suggestion?
Sure.
So what you just read from, was that the contract?
That's part of the public defender contract.
Okay, so it seems to me maybe we could have a ready-to-go kind of contract whenever a court-appointed attorney. That would be maybe one thing. I don't know if that's possible.
Say that again?
Is it possible to set a policy, you know, at our level to say we want the bills by such and such time?
No, there's not.
Well, it's outlined 30 days, though,
But that's just public defender. That's just, they file an invoice with us to show if we would have paid for just that individual, how much it would have cost, because we pay them a contract fee, we don't pay them this actual.
So
the court-appointed attorneys, no, we have no jurisdiction.
So could we just request, or so we need some legal backing?
I think it needs to come from the circuit court judges.
We can ask about it. I mean,
That these attorneys need to get, because every one of these court-appointed attorney cases has to be signed off on by a judge.
You know, we might need a law. I mean, the judge might need a law to enforce something like that too.
And
you know, that might.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why we're looking for direction because of this.
But if somebody
it's very hard to budget when you get a $5,000 bill 12 months after the case is closed.
It'd be last year's budget in essence.
Correct.
Yeah, and I've been standing there listening to you guys be frustrated talking in your office about this issue. So could we, at a minimum, this could get to be a kind of a challenge to follow. But do we know who the court-appointed attorneys are when they get appointed?
No.
Okay.
We do not. They're appointed by the bench. Like I said, we have grounds within our public defender contracts to take care of those.
That part of it, yeah.
But not, and I did email other county auditors across the state. We're all fighting the same thing.
So,
some auditors have had luck talking to the presiding judge. In some cases, the presiding judge has actually cut the attorney's bill, cut part of it off for coming in late.
Do they have the authority to do that?
I don't know. Apparently they do.
I think maybe
apparently they do have the authority.
This is a legislative issue to some extent, perhaps. But in any event, I would make the motion, at least for the public defenders, to authorize the chair to do that.
We should probably address this to the judges, simply.
Maybe a letter to the judges also asking them for their consideration when they're signing off on these attorney fees.
At least get them in the loop so they know what's happening.
Yes.
Because they may not realize that this is what's happening.
And what the repercussion is to the individuals that it's happening
definitely.
to.
Yeah.
I'll second Lee's motion.
Too much money.
All right.
That we go ahead and send that.
So I think we could do this public defender part of it, then also maybe at a late, soon we can do something, maybe a note to or just have a discussion with the judges so they're aware of the issue. So.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? My discussion would be, as the board, would you want to see the letter before we send it? Or do you want me to just review it and sign it?
Would you mind writing? Just be nice when you write it.
All right.
And I would actually put that in there, Cindy, that.
The section of
the
the
section of the
contract.
contract.
It will be
just
enforced.
as a reminder.
It will be enforced.
It would just be nice to have a copy of it,
together
just
a
to
good
email it to us so we can
Just
see
be
it.
nice, but be firm.
Yeah,
Okay.
you just
And I may
polite.
ask
No typos, good grammar.
the state's attorney's office to help me with it, and she's out this week, so it might not happen this week, but okay.
All right, very good.
We have a motion and a second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Action on change orders submitted for the courthouse remodel. Lee,
Nothing.
Nothing today, good.
So you saw, I watched the drama on the streaming last week, so you guys were talking right about it, so. But did everybody get the list of expenses that I sent?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Well, yeah, after I read it to them, I forgot to send it.
Okay.
How about claims? Do we have any claims?
We have a couple of claims today. Our normal credit card bills that we like to pay to avoid service charges. The other one we have is our CenturyLink bill, which is the bill for our phone service. We've had a problem with them for the last 2 to 3 months. The last time the state ordered a new phone line for possibly the new courtroom, it got put on the county's bill.
I remember that.
So we've been going back and forth with CenturyLink and South Dakota BIT to get it straightened out. We finally have. Debbie worked for a long time on this one with people from CenturyLink, so we need to pay a claim to CenturyLink for $716.67. That's what it costs to keep our phones ringing per month. The second one is to Visa Reliabank, and this is for emergency management for travel and supplies in the amount of $55.28. The second one is also Visa Reliabank for the Sheriff's Office for miscellaneous supplies, travel, and I think a registration for the National Tactical Officers Association. The total is $598.95.
Move to approve.
Motion by Hatton to approve, second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Any budget supplements?
None today.
And we have a couple of personnel changes, and they are in your folder.
The first one is Michelle Peterson. She is the database coordinator in the Director of Equalization Office. She's due a step increase to step 13, $24.85 per hour. Shane Yost is a part-time deputy sheriff. He has met the number of hours to advance from step 1 to step 2, $21.89 an hour. Amalia Barrientos is a part-time correctional officer being promoted to full-time as of July 1st. She'll go to step 4, $19.66 an hour. And Jonathan Sheehan is also a part-time correctional officer who has worked enough hours to advance to step 3, $18.95 per hour.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
Motion by Van Duzen, seconded by Waterman. Any discussion? I would just
Waterman
say-
or Gable?
Waterman. Waterman led second.
Okay.
Discussion, I would just say congratulations to these people for being the board and moving up a step. Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. I do not have any travel requests.
Nope.
And therefore, do we go and have any old business? Any mature business?
Just one follow-up to remember the grant we talked about for the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative?
Yep.
So it's a grant from I forget the name of the office now, within the Unified Judicial System, giving a grant to the county. We're talking about using the Boys and Girls Club to work some alternatives, hire another person. So that was approved. So today's JDI meeting is at noon, and that's going to be a discussion mostly about the job description now, finalizing that job description so that the Boys and Girls Club could move forward with that hiring. So that's a bit of good news.
Okay, good, thank you. Anything else? Anyone else? How about new business? Any new business? Any new business? Okay, how about open?
Just, Mr.
Anything
Chairman.
for the open?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of things.
Okay, go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, one is tomorrow I have another CLERP meeting, so that's the Catastrophic Legal Expense Reimbursement Program. So just been a very busy world, the court world in a lot of counties. Just FYI, I'll be doing that meeting. That's by telephone meeting. And then on Thursday we have the CCJAC meeting. Probably going to be kind of a short meeting, but it's at 6:10 at LATI. So I sent out a draft agenda to everybody. So that's going to be taking place.
And that's at 6:10?
6:10 at LATI. On Thursday, the 20th, so 6:10 PM, not AM, so
On Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
so the 20th.
Anything else?
The building will be open tonight because we are counting the city's ballots here tonight as soon as they come in from the polls, and it is open to the public, so we do need to have the building open, and I've worked with Milo, and I'll have to work with the security checkpoint to make sure things are left open so that we can get people in and out and ballots into the building. So hopefully, I'm assuming we'll be out of here by 8:30 at the latest, probably.
Well, I hope the city has a good turnout for their election. I know it's kind of an off year, and it's tough for these kinds of elections to get a good turnout. I don't know, I heard a couple of estimated percentages, and they weren't very high. So I encourage people to get out and vote.
Big issue on the agenda.
If you don't vote, you can't complain, right?
I voted before I went on my trip.
Yeah. All right, anything else? No public comments, no commission comments.
I have a request for an executive session on personnel issues.
All right, we have a request from Commissioner Hatton, and that would be on number 1 then.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session.
We have a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Will there be any
Yeah.
thing after the executive
Nothing
session?
afterwards, so press won't have to hang around. The press won't have to hang around. There won't be any action after we come out of executive session. You can, if you want, come back in after executive session, but there won't be any action.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
All right, we are in executive session. All in favor, indicate.